Think about the last time you saw someone you love. Maybe it was your best friend, your mum, or someone you grew up with. Now think, did you actually notice it? Or were you just half checking your phone, thinking about what you had to do tomorrow, and assuming there'd be a next time? Because here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. There might not be a next time. And Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, figured out how to make that hit harder than anything I've ever watched. Not not through death, not through tragedy, but through something way more uncomfortable. Through showing you how little you paid attention. On the surface, Frieren looks like a standard fantasy. A party of heroes defeats the Demon King. The journey is over. Everyone goes home. But then 50 years pass in the first episode, and that's when you realize this show is not about the adventure, it's about everything after. Frieren is an elf. She's over 1,000 years old, and for her, 50 years is nothing. It's an afternoon, it's a long nap. It barely registers. So when her companions age and die, people she traveled with, laughed with, fought beside, she doesn't feel it the way they would. She just didn't think it would matter that much. And standing at Himmel's funeral, Himmel the hero, the man who led them all, she breaks down crying. Not because she knew losing him would hurt this much, because she's realizing, right there at his grave, that she never really tried to know him. She had decades, and she spent them distracted. And honestly, can you blame her? Imagine losing people you love. Now imagine doing that on repeat for centuries. At some point, your mind just starts protecting you. You start keeping people at arm's length without even realizing it. Not because you don't care, but because caring has cost you everything, over and over again, for 1,000 years. Frieren didn't ignore Himmel because she was heartless. She ignored him because getting close to humans had always ended the same way, and it still hurt. Here's what makes Frieren different from every other grief story. Most shows about loss focus on the moment someone dies, the big dramatic scene, the tears, the music swell, and then the character moves on. Frieren is about the quiet grief, the grief that arrives slowly, weeks or months later, when you're doing something completely normal, and then you think, oh, I can't tell them about this. Frieren doesn't cry at the funeral because she's devastated. She cries because she's embarrassed. Because she's an immortal being who has watched entire civilizations rise and fall, and still didn't think to ask Himmel what his favorite food was, what he dreamed about, and what made him laugh when nobody was watching. She had 50 years to learn who he was. And now she's spending the rest of eternity trying to figure out who he was from the stories people left behind. The whole show, her entire journey, is basically Frieren trying to understand a dead man retroactively. She travels to the places he traveled. She talks to the people who knew him. She looks at statues of him in village squares and tries to feel something she would have felt when he was standing right next to her. And it never fully works. It can't, because that's how loss actually operates. You don't get the version of them you ignored, you get the version you remember. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I'm not an immortal elf. My problem isn't that time moves too slow, it's that it moves too fast. But that's exactly the point. Frieren experiences time the way we act like we experience it. When you're young, the people in your life feel permanent. Your parents will always be there, your friends will always pick up the phone, and that group chat will always exist. You don't rush to have the deep conversations because why would you? There's always the weekend, there's always next year. But time has this trick it plays on everyone. It makes the ordinary feel infinite, right up until it doesn't. Think about the last time you're in the same room as everyone you grew up with. Like genuinely everyone. Your whole childhood crew, your whole family, the group that felt like it would last forever. When was the last time that happened? And when's the next time it will? Most people can't answer that second question. And that's the thing Frieren is quietly screaming at you for 10 episodes. The hero's journey ended, and Frieren thought, okay, we'll stay in touch. There'll be reunions. We'll make time. And then one day, there's a funeral. Here's what Frieren does something I didn't expect. It doesn't leave you in that grief. Because the show's answer to all of this isn't cherish every moment. That advice is so overused, it's basically meaningless at this point. The answer is something quieter. Pay attention to the small things, because the small things are all of it. Frieren spends decades collecting useless spells, spells that can clean dishes, spells that can make flowers bloom in the winter, magic that has no practical purpose whatsoever. And everyone thinks she's wasting her time. But those spells, they're memories. Each one was taught to her by someone who's gone. Each one is a tiny piece of a person she can carry forever. She can't bring Himmel back, but she can make the flowers he loved bloom in the snow. And the show reframes the whole journey because of this. Frieren isn't just trying to reach the afterlife to see Himmel one more time. She's learning, slowly, painfully, and beautifully, how to be present. How to let people matter to her while they're still here. Her relationship with Fern, with Stark, even with the new people she meets on the road. She's learning, at over 1,000 years old, how to actually show up for someone. And if an elf who watches empires fall can learn that, maybe there's hope for the rest of us. Frieren isn't a sad anime, it's an honest one. It looks you in the eye and asks, who in your life are you treating like they'll always be there? Because they won't. Not forever. None of them. And you don't have to have a dramatic conversation about it. You don't need to make some grand gesture. You just need to sometimes put the phone down, ask the question you've been too busy to ask, stay a little longer than you planned. Collect the small spells while you still can.